What's going on, everyone? It's Daniel from CoinSpots here. Hope you're having a great Thursday. Per usual, we're going to be looking at Bitcoin, updating you guys on my trade. We're going to do a little bit less on the technicals today and focus a little bit more on the news. Got 3 interesting pieces of news. So we're going to start with crypto learning centers actually coming out all over Asia, followed by Canadian crypto exchanges requiring more KYC, and then lastly, a little bit about decentralized exchanges versus centralized exchanges, and pretty much just based on an article that came out on CoinDesk. So we're going to switch over to the arrow here. Now, for the past 2 days, I've been talking about the short setup that I took on Bitcoin right here at this candle. We had that SFP that was invalidated. Now, I actually closed my short at the close of this candle right here. Now, why did I do that? Because I was actually monitoring this trade. Simply, I have the time to do that now, so I'm actually pretty fortunate for that. And I saw that we formed this swing low right here. And the swing low basically means we have a higher high to the left and a higher high to the right. And when I see this kind of candle pattern, I am definitely going to close a short that I have, simply because this indicates to me that a short-term bottom has been formed. And luckily for me, the price did go up. And thankfully, I have closed my short. Even though I would not have been liquidated yet, or not liquidated, my stop loss wouldn't have been hit because I had my stop at the top wick of this candle here, because that's where my thesis would have been invalidated. But as I said, while monitoring this trade, I saw this swing low form on the 4-hour, and I was just waiting for this candle to close, and I saw it closed above the low of this candle, and that short-term bottom for me signaled time to cut my trade. So I made a little bit of a gain. How much was that? So I got in right here roughly at the open of this candle, went to this candle, about a 1.3% gain with leverage. So that was a pretty mediocre trade, I guess you could say. Didn't go to my favor. Honestly, not a lot of the shorts that have, or at least I've opened up, have gone or reached my target, I should say. I have not actually, or they have not actually reached my stop loss, but it's just they haven't, reached my target either. I kind of exited somewhere in the middle. But you might be wondering why I have this box highlighted. That's actually, if we zoom out to the daily and close out these ads, I've noticed that this kind of chart or candle pattern has been pretty similar to the one we saw back here in the beginning of April before this huge move upward, right? We had this kind of pinhead doji candle right here, a sell-off, followed by a spike up and a spike up, right? Obviously, we had a subsequent candle here where we had a sell-off candle here, but this kind of candle pattern is kind of giving me a little bit of a little reminisce of what happened over here back in April. So kind of zooming out on the daily time frame, I think we might actually be kind of going a little bit bullish, because if we do come back here on the 4-hour, we do see kind of the same setup with a ton of these wicks before a price that shoots up, right? Showing those wicks showing a ton of uncertainty for the price. So for me, kind of zooming out on the daily view, I'm actually comfortable, cutting my trade short here and, taking about half the percentage that it was intended to be. But in terms for targets, I think if we can hold this swing high here, this April 3rd swing high as support, which we have, these two on the 4-hour, but specifically looking on the daily, because right here, this huge candle from a couple days ago that had everybody on Twitter, screaming 50K, 100K Bitcoin, actually closed below the swing high. So I think if we can make this level support, around 7,500, 7,520-ish, and this daily candle can close above that, I think we're, off to the races for at least the short term, kind of going up to around the $9,000 level. Definitely this swing low is going to be what I've got my eyes on for the shorter term, but I guess for I don't even know how to explain this, like short term or long term, right? Like for the short term, meaning in the next couple days. Next couple weeks, I would say 9K would be around the target where we had this kind of trend line going down. But that's kind of what I'm seeing for Bitcoin here. And that's kind of it for the technicals. We're going to move on to the news. A couple interesting pieces, right? These crypto learning centers have been on the rise in Asia pretty much, right? Japan, Thailand, South Korea. And I think this is super interesting because it's exactly the same thing that the SEC is doing over here in the United States. Obviously not specific crypto learning centers, but they're heavily providing resources so investors can, find scams or, predict scams and not just give their money to ICOs and stuff like that, and basically making them more aware, how to use exchanges, how to use wallets, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what these places are doing here in Asia. A couple of them for free, actually, especially in Japan. They're just pretty much like stores that have been set up in different locations that are providing free classes in terms of how to use exchanges, how to set up wallets, and how to transact crypto and stuff like that. A couple of them are actually paid, which I'm a little skeptical about that, but it's honestly really interesting with this whole paid learning about how to like set up wallets and use exchanges, because it kind of reminds me of when I was back in high school. My old computer teacher used to tell me that in the early 2000s, you were paid like a couple $100 to build a computer for somebody. And if you know anything about computers, they're not really that difficult to put together after you've done probably 2 or 3 of them with the supervision of someone else. After that, you could pretty much build them on your own because it's the same process over and over again. And it's interesting because back then in the early 2000s, when, the internet was kind of just starting to go mainstream, people would pay you a couple $100 to assemble a computer. And I feel that that's kind of the same way with crypto right now in terms of using exchanges, how to sign up for an exchange, how to navigate the interface, how to set up a wallet, send transactions with crypto. For me, and for probably a lot of you guys, that's stuff like the back of your hand. Like, how to do that with the snap of a finger. But so many other people don't, that they're willing to pay, I guess, to learn about this. Now, obviously, I said to be a little bit skeptical because there's a ton of free information all over YouTube about, how to set up wallets and stuff like that. So at least for me personally, I would never recommend to go out and spend money on learning how to do this stuff, because there's just a plethora of resources all over YouTube on how to use every big exchange in the United States, at least, right? How to use X, Y, or Z crypto wallet. Like, all of that information is on YouTube. So that's why I'm a little bit skeptical about like paid courses or paid like sessions. But as I said, a lot of the ones here in Japan, they've said that they're free. And also what's interesting, in South Korea, they're offering university classes for crypto and kind of the history and the principles behind Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see, how colleges are actually, picking up blockchain technology as something, or as a course that that kids could take. At least now, I haven't even heard of a college in the U.S. that has, implemented anything to do with crypto. But this is definitely a good trend that's going on, where government is teaching people about the crypto space, how to stay safe, how to navigate through it without imposing regulation, which is definitely the best way to go. Now, moving on, actually, Canadian crypto exchanges are implementing more know your customer rules with the absence of regulation, actually. So Canadian regulators in Parliament haven't actually implemented any kind of regulation that exchanges need to comply with X, Y, or Z. A lot of exchanges are taking it upon themselves to voluntarily register and comply with Canada's financial regulations, which is really interesting because you would think that in a kind of Wild West space, a lot of people would want to take advantage of stuff like this, but it kind of goes to show that these exchanges really want people to have faith in them and trust them, because there's been a ton of recent hacks on exchanges, which is actually going to go into the last article we have here. But this kind of exchange and or exchanges implementing know your customer rules is something we're definitely going to see continuing pretty much throughout the next couple months, I'd say, as actual regulation comes out, whether it's in the United States. I know Bitfinex just had it, and I think Coinbase upped their KYC rules, and I know they added some new questions and stuff like that onto like why you're using the platform. But definitely this is going to be a trend you're going to be seeing for the next couple months. Pretty much, I'd say the 2018 year as a whole for crypto is going to be defined by regulation and what framework countries are going to use in order to kind of tackle this crypto thing, right? Because 2017 was really the Wild West, and we saw with the ICOs and stuff like that. Now in 2018, we see countries kind of saying, hey, crypto is only going to get bigger, and we have to institute some kind of framework. So, whether it's the kind of laissez-faire approach, hands-off, where the government is just going to provide educational resources and also at the same time crack down on scams like we see the SEC doing, or if they're going to impose some, harsher, stricter regulations, that's just, only time will tell about that. But I think 2018 is really going to be marked with regulation and what governments are going to do in order to kind of tackle this crypto boom that we have going on pretty much all over the world. So that kind of transitions to the last point about this article that kind of has a misleading headline. It states, watch out, crypto exchanges, decentralization is coming. And as much as everyone in the crypto space now like really cheers for decentralization and stuff like that, I think it's important to put it into perspective, because while decentralized exchanges are going to be better because you control your private keys, you control pretty much your funds, they stay in your wallet when you're exchanging them. You don't need to send them to a centralized exchange in order to exchange. I keep saying exchange. Exchange them for another cryptocurrency before you send it back to your wallet. With decentralized exchanges, you can do that all from your wallet. But the big thing is, I feel that the decentralized exchange concept is just thrown around a little bit too freely in the crypto space, because we as a whole want more adoption in the crypto community. And decentralized exchanges are actually going to hinder adoption because they're not as straightforward and as user-friendly or noob-friendly as centralized exchanges, where you don't have to worry about your private keys and you can just sign in with an email and password like everyone is used to access your funds. And yes, while that is not the most secure thing to do, for the majority of the population, that's the convenience that they want. And this is something that's really, really important when analyzing crypto and the impact that it has on a country or on a group of people as a whole. They need some kind of incentive to switch over to crypto, right? And if the interface, for example, is really difficult to navigate through, people aren't going to use it, right? Even right now, talking to people like myself talking to other people and kind of telling them to get into crypto and, you know, why they should X, Y, and Z, I always get the response that, oh, you know, it's too difficult. I'm not exactly sure what to do. And if regular everyday people think it's too difficult to get into crypto right now using something like Coinbase, imagine what people would think when decentralized exchanges come about, right? It's literally like handing someone a hardware wallet and telling them, you're your own bank, you're in control of your own finances, enjoy it. They're not going to have a clue what to do with that. And that's the big, 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 big issue that I see with decentralized exchanges. It's not going to help the widespread adoption of crypto. As great as they are in terms of privacy, in terms of security, even though smart contracts can still be hacked, they are still more secure than a centralized exchange that keeps at least a portion of their funds online, right? We're not talking about what's in cold storage because that can't be hacked. But just the concept of adoption of crypto, I don't think that just saying decentralized exchanges are coming is going to revolutionize crypto in any way, right? I still think centralized exchanges are going to be the main source of liquidity. And people, I guess, who you could say are a little bit more technically sound, if you want to call it that. Because as I said, for me and you, people who have been in the crypto space for even a couple months, you know, using something like a decentralized exchange isn't going to be that difficult because we already know how to transact with different addresses and how the interface works and stuff like that. But a lot of people might not want to take the time to learn that. So I think decentralized exchanges they're definitely coming for sure. I'm super bullish on ZRX simply because of that. And they're going to be kind of an option for people who want to stay anonymous when they're transacting or exchanging, but they're not going to be, you know, the downfall of centralized crypto exchanges, at least for the next 5+ years. You know, so that's why a title like this, a headline like this, you know, is a little bit misleading because centralized exchanges aren't going to go anywhere in the next coming years. You know, especially with decentralized exchanges just starting out, it's not going to be this huge, big revolution that a lot of people at least think it's going to be. Because, as I said, the user interface isn't there. And when stuff is complicated to do, the majority of the population isn't going to use it. You have to remember, for crypto to go mainstream, something needs to come out where people realize or start to think that, you know, why didn't I use this app before? Why didn't I use whatever before that is based on blockchain? And then they'll start to realize, hey, if blockchain makes this so much easier, what are all the other applications that blockchain can be used for? And that is going to be the turning point for crypto going mainstream. And when we see, you know, coin market cap going up to potentially $1 trillion, it's going to be huge when that happens. And user interface and or just basically user interface is probably one of the biggest functions that needs to be down packed for mainstream adoption. And decentralized exchanges, unfortunately, do not have that. So that's just my 2 cents on it. But other than that, that's about it for today. Going to just keep watching Bitcoin, see what happens. Hopefully we get this daily close above the swing high, and then I'll potentially be thinking about longing this to, anywhere between this swing low or this SR level up here. But other than that, guys, thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Got daily content coming out Monday through Friday. I'm loving doing this. So, yeah, see you guys tomorrow.